What up, everybody? Well, I guess this will have to be one of those whispery videos where I have to get really close to be heard. But I'm going to do somewhat of an unboxing. And hopefully, very soon, I'll have another item to unbox. And that I made a song about. Recently, I got this redhead Lottie doll. I have two brunette girls, one boy, Finn, a blonde, and now a redhead from AliExpress. And she was nude, but she was on discount. Another two items. Disney Descendants, Mal and Ben. This is Belle's son with the Beast. And this is Maleficent's daughter. And they were from Florida. And I ordered them after the Ohio package. But guess what? They're already here. So Disney Descendants, they're a little bit shorter than a Ken doll or a Barbie. And that's what I like. They're short, like a Kevin, but their heads are too big. Not that much. What I really wish, if I could have my way, I wish that they would make dolls like this proportionally smaller. I wish there could be a doll with exactly these proportions. Only he'd be 8 or 9 inches tall. So that he would be like shrunk down to like that with his head. Exactly the same. And proportionally, bigger than average. And that she would be the same way. And I have a crown I can put on it. Prince Ben. I have a tiara that I can put on her. So yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a hard thing to do. And he was barefoot. It would not be a hard thing to do to create a line of dolls like the Sunshine Family that are more like the Leica Chans, wherein they pretend to be teenagers but are proportionally under 5 feet tall, meaning under 10 inches. Or really, it'd be nice if they were a little over 4 inches. With the body different between male and female, but not the face. The face looking pretty much unisex, but the body being differentiated slightly. And that's what I wish they were. I wish they were like dolls like that on a 1/8 scale. I wish those dolls could be dialed down to a 1/8 scale. To give the illusion of being younger. But this was the other thing that came in the package that I shouldn't have bought. Holiday Barbie, 1996. And the reason why she's significant, I didn't have any holiday Barbies ever. Not even after Christmas, like my sister got one. After 2005, it was in, I think, 2006, her last Barbie. But this one had all her jewelry, and she was still in good shape. And I have to put her on a doll stand at Christmas. Holiday Barbie 1996. What's the significance of that, you ask? Well, the entire year, 96, 97, was significant. And it's 29 years ago this school year. But next year, next Christmas, will be 30 years since my 7th grade Christmas. That's what it was. It was my 7th grade Christmas. So while I remember more of the spring semester in 97, most of my awful, bittersweet 7th grade memories were spring 97. The Christmas was, of course, December 96. So it's kind of like this year is 26, but the previous Christmas was 25. So the Christmas when I was age 13 was 96. So she has a significance in being the beautiful holiday Barbie. See, I wasn't, sad thing about my life in 7th grade, I mean, it was just one of the many things that sucked about my life. That awful time in my life. All of my dolls at that time, it was just a very bad time. That's why I hate all these nostalgia posts about the 90s. Oh, they were so wonderful. Oh, the 90s. Oh, I miss being a kid. Well, you know what? I don't effing miss being 13. If there's one age I'm glad I'm not, that stands out above all others, it's unlucky 13. Not only because I'm a triskaidekaphobe, but because it was an awful freaking year. It was a bad year. Now, that's not to say the surrounding years were good, you know. That's not to say that 6th grade was a good year, or that 8th grade was good either, or elementary school, or high school. So it's not like my 7th grade year was really, well, I guess, you know, some years were better or worse than others in different ways. Like, what was good about one year was bad about another. You know, the bad things about each year changed. But they were all somewhat bad. But 7th grade, as I've stated before, it is the year that if I could, I wish my brain were like a computer, wherein I could go in and clean up old files, clean up old, unnecessary files, and make room for new ones, like where I just laid my phone down, and where I put my purse in the house, and what I was going to buy at the store. You know, if I could go in and delete old memories, I wish I could go back and delete the entirety of the 96.7, 6.7, see, it's 6.7. I wish I could delete all memory of my 7th grade year, age 13. I wish I could delete it and free up that space for what I just told you. Short-term memory, new memories, new things, new experiences. Because, I mean, and it wasn't the colds. You know, it was certainly not my worst year for colds, which is why that last one was so memorable, you know? Because, I mean, honestly, like when I look back at the other years, like in 6th grade where I think I had 7 colds, I'm not 100% sure, I could have had more. But I had a minimum of 7. And in 8th grade, I had 9 from my little sister. Well, as I've stated before, because there were more colds those years. I don't remember as much about them. I remember approximate dates, but not exact dates. Because in 6th grade, I hadn't yet become as obsessed with them as I would be. And in 8th grade, there were just so many of them that, the fact that I remember that there were 9 basically every month except I think October and May. So there were just so many of them. And then as I got into high school, I know approximate numbers. Like I think 5 in the 9th grade, 4 plus chicken pox in the 10th grade, 6 in my junior year, and about 3 my senior year. But I had other things to do. So while I did remember the colds, they were happening alongside other more important things, was the difference. See, in 97, the common cold was just like this fresh obsession. It was consuming my thoughts. And so to get a cold in May, that making it odd in and of itself, it sort of became an example cold. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like my first cold since I became obsessed with them. Therefore, every subsequent one in the future would be somewhat compared to that one in duration. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I have such a vivid memory. The first most vividly remembered colds, coming down with it almost as the clock struck midnight on May 1st. Like I said before, May 1 was day 1. And by the way, no one can gaslight me and get me to incorrectly remember the cold as having been March 1st. Because I think that was a Sunday. Yeah, so it wouldn't have worked. You see, if it had been March 1st, no. March 2nd was a Sunday. So the following year, March 1st was a Sunday. So if it had been March 1st, I think that was a Saturday. Because in 98, March 1st was a Sunday. So if it had been the 1st and 2nd of March instead of May, it'd have been the weekend. So I couldn't have missed March 2nd because it was a Sunday. See, I missed Friday, May 2nd. So, yeah. Because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, yeah. Because March is 3 days more than 28. April is 2 days more than 28. So, yeah, if it had been instead March 1st and 2nd, it would have been not only more normal, in the context of happening during the astrological winter, and therefore less remarkable, but I would have been home because it was the weekend, not because I was absent. So, yeah, it's like it became the most well-remembered cold in May of 97 because, number one, having it in May, most people think of May as the summer beginning, even though it's still spring. You see all the beach stuff at the store where the Easter was cleared out. So in May, people start wanting it to be summer. Just like they wanted it to be Christmas already 6 months prior in November, and Easter already in February, and fall in August, and so on. And, so people don't think of May as a month when you get colds. But when you're in school, I used to get them like from August through May. And on rare occasion when I was under 13, even occasionally in June or July. So, it was my most well-remembered cold because that became an obsession consuming my life, you see. Once other obsessions sort of bumped it down in significance. It was still there, but only in the background. So while I do remember subsequent colds and approximately when they happened, because of how that changed me as a person, I don't remember it quite so vividly as the one in May of 97. And so that one sort of became example cold, you know. Wasn't the mildest one I ever had, but it wasn't the most severe. It was about average. And I found that most of them more or less followed a similar pattern of symptoms. And, you know, like the second day was always the worst. And so, you know, because I didn't really enjoy my life in the 7th grade at age 13 because of a lot of these obsessions, you know. I mean, age 12 was pretty bad too. You know, it was pretty awful too. And a lot of the other grades had a lot of bad things as well. But because my 14th Christmas, age 13, because, you know, your first Christmas, you're 0, like this baby. When I was 13 on Christmas, that was probably, if I had to pick a worse Christmas, that's probably it. I mean, other Christmases have been bad in various ways. But if I could delete one Christmas out of my memory, my 14th, meaning age 13, would be the one. The one where my voice should have probably begun changing. Were I born in the right body? That Christmas was the worst, bar none. You know, and one of the things that was wrong in my life, well, part of it was my parents not accepting that they couldn't force me to be a normal teenager. I mean, I know that sounds kind of odd, you know, because most parents don't like the fact that they have a teenager and they want them to slow down, you know, and stay little a bit longer. Well, in my case, I was just so immature that when I became a teenager, I mean, I never looked forward to being a teenager. Never. It was a dreaded day. Not only was it bad luck, but I was weird enough as a kid. I was weird enough as a kid. So, they thought they could force me to be normal. And one of the things done to me that I rate as the most highly abusive thing ever done, you know, was basically emotionally attached to this baby pillow. I have a similar pillow on that bed, but it's not the one. But all my life, I've pretty much needed this, I want to say it's 9 by 12 inches, a homemade baby pillow. They used to be my mom's. And what's unique about it is that it's a feather pillow, feather and ticking. And it's cold to the touch. And from as far back as I can remember, I've always had it as a security blanket. I've always needed it in order to fall asleep, even if I don't really suck my thumb anymore. You know, I can't really fall asleep with my thumb in my mouth anymore, but when I was younger, I was sucking my thumb past, you know, what is normally the right age to stop, which most people think is under 3, oddly enough. But it's just like anything else, the longer you do it, the harder it is to part with it. So, you know, if you could leave a kid in diapers and let them graduate high school in diapers, they would truly, well, they wouldn't go off to college in a diaper. They would just not go to college because their diapers would be too important to leave behind. They would take online courses and continue to wear them at home. So, I think a lot of boys probably would do that, but not girls. But, you know, because I was still thumb sucking, you know, I had no craving to ever be a teenager. That's why this idea that children long to be teens and teens long to be adults, absolutely not. Because, you know, I was like, I knew that people would put more pressure on me to grow up and, seem more normal the older I got. And becoming a teenager was a huge milestone. Like 13 just sounds so different. Like 11 and 12 go together, but almost like that 13 belongs with 17. And 17 is not much different than 18. So becoming a teenager, and, now that some of my classmates, male classmates, sounded like men, was not a pleasant transition at all. I mean, puberty was hard enough, but now actually becoming a teenager and being expected to, be more mature, when I was already immature for a kid. It already wasn't normal at 12 or 10 or 8 or 6. But, becoming a teenager, showing no signs of wanting to grow up or wear makeup or stop sucking my thumb, stop carrying around a baby pillow. That's a huge part of why I'm still virginal and no interest in guys, because, no guy is as important to me as my security blankets, which can take various forms. So if a guy is not cool with me having, a 7-year-old baby pillow, then I don't want to be with that guy, because my 70-year-old baby pillow is more important. They used to be my mom's. If I had to choose the baby pillow or the man, I'd choose the baby pillow any day of the week. So, when I was 13, Christmas 96 was by far the worst and most depressing Christmas ever. Other Christmases were bad for various reasons, but that one was the worst, bar none, because, Christmas found me in punishment, basically. My mom had taken away my baby pillow for the stupidest reason. For 2 reasons. She had 2, or at least 3 reasons why she did that. To punish me. It wasn't like I did anything, really. I think it may have been something as simple as I would come home starving after school because I didn't want to eat at school. I had this man teacher that I've talked about before, right after lunch. And that strongly discouraged me to eat lunch in ways that he would never have even understood, because he did not refuse to let me go to the bathroom. He didn't. He would have let me, but I just didn't like asking him. But, so I wouldn't eat lunch, and I'd come home starving. And my mom would fix both me and my little sister, who didn't go to school yet for 1 more year, some kind of a lunch around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And she would serve us, she'd heat hers up, and then she'd heat mine up. And I asked her a question: why are you always serving her first? And she's like, well, you had an opportunity to eat at school, you sorry son of a bee. You selfish son of a bee. And she was just so cruel, and she decided to punish me by taking away this baby pillow. And this punishment lasted for about 2 to 3 months. I think I got it back in February, once she saw that I wasn't going to stop sucking my thumb because she took away the pillow, because she wanted me to stop sucking my thumb. She was going to put me in braces about 2 years later. And, taking away the pillow was supposed to wean me, so to speak, so that when I got braces, but I never stopped sucking my thumb. I would just, stroke the regular pillow. She wasn't going to take the regular pillows off the bed. And if she'd have done that, I'd just stroke the mattress, just straight up. If she'd have taken all the pillows off the bed, I'd have just stroked the bed itself. So I'd suck my thumb and I would stroke the pillow. And so she wanted to normalize me, or try to force me to be, more like everybody else. The other 99.9% who didn't need a baby pillow just to get through life. And, she's just very cruel to me. She just became very cruel to me. around the time, it wasn't just, I hated puberty for what it did to my body. I hated the way it changed how others perceived and treated me, including my own mom. Everybody looked upon me like, what's the matter with you? You have breasts. Why can't you be like a woman? Why don't you act like a woman? You have breasts. That's why I've always wanted to remove them, because I want to remove the expectations that come with them more than anything. So, everybody started treating me badly, because I wasn't just so eager to be a woman, date men, and, I think it was really my mom who somewhat encouraged me to see my feelings for my teacher as a romantic interest, I knew I was intimidated by him, but she framed that as, well, you're in love with him. That's what it means. I wasn't even going to call it that until she, filled in those blanks for me. So, yeah. But she took away my pillow. And so basically, if I still have anything that I got for Christmas that year, I'm pretty sure I got rid of it in some way or another. I don't think I have anything remaining that I got that Christmas. Because the way I felt about all my Christmas presents that year was that there was not a single thing that she could have given me that would have made up for her taking my baby pillow around December the 6th, I think. December 6th, 1996. There was nothing in those presents that she could have given me that I would have liked, as much as that feather baby pillow that I got back in February once she realized that I wasn't going to keep it a secret, what she did, and I wasn't going to stop sucking my thumb. In fact, I was even more determined to still enjoy thumb sucking and stroke other things, if you know what I mean. Like, instead of it needing to be the baby pillow, I just grab her sacred Santa Claus shaped pillow in the living room, or one of the toss pillows in the living room. Or, if you could have locked me in a jail cell with nothing, I would have stroked my clothing. That's how desperate I was to continue thumb sucking. I'd have just sucked my thumb and, stroked my sock if I had to. And eventually, I would have made a pillow of my own, because I also took home ec and I made a pillow and I started stroking that too. Little heart Valentine pillow. And I think that's around the time that I got my pillow back, because when she saw me like sucking my thumb and stroking that thing I made in school, that heart-shaped pillow with the hearts on it, she knew how desperate I was to continue. Just wondering what the noise is. So, Christmas 96 Barbie has the significance of being the kind of thing I should have had but didn't. My Barbies were all being taken away from me, or they'd all been taken away at age 11, put in top my sister's closet, and told that they were no longer mine. They were now my sister's future dolls. Once she got out of the baby doll stage, they were my sister's future dolls, not mine. And, as a state of 4, I only had 9 of them at that point. So, basically, my dolls were taken away at 11. Age 12, she told me she'd rather have me dead than thinking Hitler wasn't such a bad guy. And she frequently told me that I'm the kind of person that he would have killed in Germany for not being good enough in various ways. And, she'd rather have me dead than saying that he was an attractive man, and I don't believe he's as bad as the Allied propaganda we're taught in history would have us believe. And, and then age 13 was awful because of, she just amped it up, just started being more abusive than ever, because here I was, a teenager who refused to stop sucking my thumb, who refused to believe Adolf, we'll call him that, was as evil as everyone wanted me to think he was, and just refused to conform. Didn't want long hair, didn't want to be a girl, didn't want to wear makeup, just rebelling against the most fundamentally basic things. So, I'm glad about the things I bought, and I'll go ahead and post this video.